Welcome back to Saturday Social. We are joined by Alex and Lyes, and it's time to talk Arsenal. There's a big smile. Look at him. He's absolutely buzzing still. You're at the game, mate. Go on, talk to us about that. Where does that rank? You said it was one of the best performances ever. Best days of your life. But,
mate,
talk to me about it.
You come out of those sorts of games and you start saying, oh, it was the best, it was this, it was that, and you go, is that fair? And it was. Like, I think it's maybe an indictment of where we've been, that I think it's the best Emirates moment. But it's, I think, in terms of just as a moment in the Emirates Stadium and the crowd and the sort of what it means and stuff, it was sensational. I think that will never be repeated, what Rice did. Like, it will never... Two goals of that quality off a free kick against Real Madrid in the quarter-final.
It nailed on that you're in the next round, semi-finals?
I will...
Be honest.
I will not say that on television.
Be honest.
Come on.
You're confident. You're confident.
Madrid were pants. They were rubbish.
They were, and they weren't great. But I was surprised by their setup, to be honest. They were not as compact as I expected them to be, and I think they didn't learn the lessons from that Atletico game.
I think they suited the way Arsenal wanted to play.
Look, I'm with Alex. I would never go on national television and say Real Madrid are out, but similar to the PSG game against Liverpool, when a team shows you they're that much better over 90 minutes, it's hard to believe that there's just going to be a complete 180 in the second leg. But Madrid have done weirder, I guess. I don't know.
The risk-free reward with leaving Mbappe there is fair because it's Mbappe. But I couldn't believe the space they gave us in the middle. I really couldn't believe it.
Ancelotti got it all wrong.
Well, let's focus on the Arsenal side of things, because I thought the 11 played absolutely brilliantly.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of chat after it, wasn't it, about who do they need to add to this side to really become, a European heavyweight superpower to compete with Real Madrid very regularly, because they competed over 90 minutes, but can they do it going forward? So today we are putting you in the seat of Andrea Berta.
Yes, you're going to be the sporting director, Alex. We want you to pick 5 players you want to see the club sign. Yeah, big role for you today. 5 players you want to see the club sign in the summer to sort of take you to that next level, really. Realistic signings, what we're saying, a couple of 100 mil?
200 million, realistic budget. Let's throw another.
Yes, we're going to get you to critique his picks, obviously, as a neutral.
I'll try.
So, and maybe chuck in some alternative names. So first signing you'd like to see your club, mate, who's it?
Yeah, so I think this is one eye on Jorginho and Partey. I think they're looking like they're leaving, or there's talks about potential contracts or whatever, but probably 1 or 2 of them will go. This is a guy who I don't think is going to break the bank, but Lucien Agume at Sevilla, he's in the French setup. He's sort of one of those players who's sort of been around. He was at Inter for a while. He's been to France, Spain, been out on loan and stuff. In terms of defensive midfielder, progressive defensive midfielder, sort of Partey replacement, you could do a lot worse. He is absolutely fantastic. I think in terms of that zone, I hate to use the phrase, but he does have the kind of the aura and the status where he sort of takes it. In terms of goal contributions, you're probably not going to get that, but in terms of that replacement for Partey, who really punches that ball through the lines, really sort of shores up that place, it's a really good pick, and it's not going to be too crazy.
We've got some magnets in front of you as well, Lyes.
These are not my names, by the way.
Not your names, but these are names that are really heavily linked with Arsenal as well. The first of which is Martin Zubimendi. There are reports saying that a deal has already been struck. And I was thinking potentially he would be the guy who's going to punch the ball through the lines and sit a little bit deeper. So is this alongside of Zubimendi, instead of a Zubimendi? What is your thoughts?
I think it would be instead of. It's another option. I think Zubimendi is basically done, but I think this is another name you could go for. I think it's different ways of controlling a game. Zubimendi will have a lot more touches, will have a lot more sort of influence on the pitch, and Agume will be more sort of keeping things tight. I think Zubimendi, I don't quite understand personally, and this is my limitation, how a Zubimendi, Ødegaard, Rice midfield functions.
I agree.
I'm not quite sure how that works.
I agree.
Because Ødegaard higher up the pitch, we've seen limitations physically, where he's best when he drops out and he's progressing the ball, and that's what Zubimendi's going to do. So I don't quite know how that works. And obviously, Mikel Arteta knows more about football than me.
OK, on that note, stick him down. Stick him down, and we'll look at your next pick.
Yeah, next. I'm presuming your next suggestion is going to be playing out on that left-hand side?
Yes, I think so. I think I have to be fair to Martinelli. I've been critical of him a lot this season, but everything I've wanted him to do in the last sort of 5 games, he's started to do again. He's starting to beat his man again. He's starting to access the box in different ways. In terms of Arsenal need to take more shots, and Antoine Semenyo solves that overnight. In terms of carrying the ball over long distances, in terms of the contact he can hold. Mikel, if you look at Timber and Miles and these players, Mikel loves players who are stable under contact, who you can't get the ball off him. I think that's why the Kudus links came out, etc. Semenyo, I think, in terms of off both feet, in terms of fashioning himself a shot, he's maybe too far, But I think Arsenal need that. They need someone who's really going to take lots of shots and be that. I think in terms of a Premier League proven player, in terms of the price to sort of fit into this thing, I think it's a good
Yes,
pick.
where do you... Alex has just talked about Semenyo's potential Martinelli replacement. How do you compare the two, and do you think that will be a good signing for Arsenal?
It'd definitely be a good signing. I agree. Martinelli has definitely looked more lively. I think he's looked much more like himself the last few games, but I think every Arsenal fan would probably be honest and say he is replaceable, he is upgradable. And I think Semenyo this season has had a really impressive season. Obviously, Sky have kind of gone with Nico Williams, who's been linked a lot to the club as well, too. I do really like the prospect of Nico Williams. I think people will look at his numbers over the last 2 seasons and maybe question it a little bit. But I think you have to look at the player and more so his skill set and how that would be integrated into the Arsenal team and how he would then kind of upgrade from there. And I think his dribbling, his 1v1, his unpredictability, I think he could look really good.
Also, Williams one side, Saka the other side.
It would be crazy.
In on Arteta's system.
Yeah,
would be
I think it'd be
unbelievable.
crazy.
One thing I will say is, and I haven't mentioned his name and he's not on my list, spoiler, Isak. If the dream happens, if somehow Newcastle don't get Champions League...
I knew Isak would come up somewhere.
You're not signing Isak, man. Move on.
I think everyone's going to move on from that one.
If it happened, Martinelli, in that sort of Anthony Gordon way, I think would really benefit.
Do you want Anthony Gordon as well now?
Newcastle fans.
that partnership.
Let's put Semenyo up then, and let's talk about the striker, because you mentioned Isak there.
This is the big
but
one.
You're not going for Isak purely because it's an unrealistic signing, right?
I think if you get Isak, we're having quite a short conversation about the other targets. There's not much money available. I think Sesko, is the... You could go other ways. You could go Ekitike. I think you've got Gyökeres there we could talk about. I think the Premier League, there were some numbers that came out the other day in terms of how intense it's going, and it's just every single year the numbers going up in terms of repeated sprints and all that stuff. Physically, Sesko's a freak. In terms of hang time, in terms of the usage of his body, in terms of creating separation for shots. There's some limitations, in my opinion, in his game in terms of when he drops out, but Arsenal just need someone to score goals. They just need someone to score goals. And I also think a lot of there'll be a lot of Arsenal fans here, so we need this player, that player, whatever. You can make a decent argument for anyone, but you have to think about translation. I think sometimes people go, well, he scores goals, so he'll score goals for Arsenal. No, you have to think about translation. In low block situations, in terms of fashioning himself something off a bit of contact and getting a shot off in a low block situation for Arsenal, and also fixing our transition issues, Sesko does both. Does he score 30 goals straight away? No. But Arsenal, may I remind you, are not that far away. We don't need a 30-goal-a-season striker. What we need is to fix our skills problem.
Yeah, I think where do you stand on this? This is such a big talking point for Arsenal fans. Obviously, we heard in week about Liam Delap's relegation contract clause. You've got the Gyökeres. You've mentioned Isak, which every Arsenal fan does. Yeah. Sesko. Who do you think, as a neutral, would be the best realistic fit for Arsenal as a striker?
Realistic is like the key word here. Look, I was on the show a few weeks ago. I love Osimhen, man. For me, it's kind of disheartening that I just don't see him linked to any of these clubs because I think all these players are great, the Seskos, the Delaps, but it's almost like, can they become ultimately a 20-goal-a-season striker? I feel like Osimhen is already there. I don't know how you would feel about the potential of him. I know the wages are a big deal here, but in terms of the profile, everything you're kind of speaking about here, hang time, pressing, intensity, I feel like he provides all of that.
For Osimhen, the channel running as well.
Yeah.
I can't believe he's not been picked up. Someone like you guys, it really is.
We talk all the time. I want him so badly at United.
I don't really understand that. You can speculate about why. I don't know, but I think I just think with Sesko this makes a lot of sense. I think there's an agreement there. Do we want to talk about him?
Well, I think we should talk about Gyökeres, because I know that I've been following you, obviously, loads of people have on social media. You're not the biggest fan of the Gyökeres to Arsenal move.
I want to be absolutely clear. 2 things. If Gyökeres signs for Arsenal and he bangs, there will be no one happier than me. I don't want to be right. I want Arsenal to win, to be absolutely clear. My concern is his translation. You look at his goal record, and it's unbelievable, but then you look at a number of things. Firstly, 18 of those this season are penalties. 18 are penalties.
That's crazy.
There's never been, in my opinion, a player who's scored a lot of goals in Portugal and come across. If you look at the top scorers in the Portuguese league in the last sort of 15 years, it's never quite translated
to the Prem.
And then you look at then you also look at how he scores his goals. It's transitions, drifting to the left, cutting in, beating someone 1v1 in spaces that I don't think he'll get in the Premier League. He'll get more goals, in my opinion, off a couple of transitions. I think he'll get more goals in terms of sniffing stuff in the box, definitely. But then you take away stuff elsewhere. The stuff that Havertz does adds so much to the team, and I'm not sure Gyökeres, when he drops out of the into the midfield, quite does the same stuff. So I think he'd do some great stuff, and he'd take away.
One thing I'll say about Arsenal, though, right? I do agree with his point in terms of they're not that far off, and I just look, there's so many instances in the Arsenal game where Bukayo Saka is just putting the ball brilliantly across the box, and it's just like begging for someone to be tapped in. I'm just thinking, there's so many guys there that, like, Sesko, I think even, like, Gyökeres, I definitely hear your criticisms. I think even him, like, he's putting those away.
Oh, he would.
And then I'm also looking at what Marino is doing. Like, the fact that Marino is bagging consistently for Arsenal just makes me think, like, yeah, there's a lot of guys that could go to this team and do serious damage for them.
6 in 9. And that's, and Gyökeres would score, let's be clear.
Good debate, that one. Let's stick, as I say, is your list, Alex. You're the role of the sporting director is, so we'll stick it down. Intrigued to hear Arsenal fans' thoughts on Sesko.
Roguish shout next.
Don't kill me.
Camavinga.
How are you getting him out of Madrid? He's on a contract until 2029.
I was just about to say, I think he signed a contract till 2029, and he's only 22, so that's not a cheap purchase.
It would not be cheap. This would probably be the most expensive, maybe alongside Sesko, but in terms of in the overall budget, I think you could do it. He has completed, I think I'm right in saying, please don't kill me, 9 90s out of 30 this season. He's been moved around. He's been taken off.
Starts, you're right.
He's all over the place at Madrid, and a lot of Madrid. My housemate's a Madrid fan. It's not that they don't like him; they can see the talent. He just doesn't seem to cement a place. And I think sometimes there's opportunities for players. We saw it with Martin Odegaard. There's opportunities for players at clubs like this who are clearly the tackling technique on this guy, as well as the progressive passing.
I think you can make the argument he's the best tackler in Europe. I genuinely think you can make that argument.
And I think for Arteta, in terms of because what he's going to obviously progress the ball and create something for you as well. In terms of his positional versatility, it's been maybe stick to beat him with, but in an Arteta system, I think that would work. People will say, well, we've got a lot of players there. Maybe we do. I don't think you sign Zubimendi. I don't think you sign Agume if you do this.
No.
But if there's an opportunity, I won't say his name again, but if there's an opportunity for these types of players, you do it.
So where does he fit in that midfield three? Because I'm a big fan of him, 100%. Where would he fit? What would your midfield three look like in a hypothetical world where you sign Camavinga?
For me, and there's no way Arteta does this, I'd drop Rice deeper and I'd put Camavinga left 8, personally. But the reason he won't do that, I mean, he's already saying he wants more goals from Rice, he wants more contributions. He's going to keep Rice higher, but I think Camavinga could play 6 as well. But the thing is, like, I think we get fixated on targets. Sometimes something just happens and you go, well, this player's an unbelievable talent, should be in the France team.
There's opportunities that come through. I think the big thing
like with Ozil and Odegaard, like that.
I think the big thing for Camavinga, right? Obviously, I completely hear your point about minutes and is he a first choice in there. I think the future of Ancelotti is everything because you never know. A manager comes in next season, he sees Camavinga as crucial to the project, and all of a sudden Camavinga to Arsenal is 0% chance.
So stick him down then.
Completely
Stick him down.
Final name then. So, as you know,
this is a bit of a rogue shout. So
tasked with 5 players.
Can I just be clear, this isn't priority number 1. This is another left back, and there will be Arsenal fans going.
He loves left backs.
Not another one. I think so. Tierney's leaving. Miles, it depends where you see him long term. Kivior, I'm not sure will stay. Calafiori's had difficulties. Zinchenko's probably leaving. So you could say, another left back. But if you look at the left backs that Arsenal have, there's a lot of churn. De Kuyper, I think the best way of describing is a left-sided Ben White, which is basically what people have wanted for a long time. He's 6'1", plays at Bruges or Brugge, I think is the right way of saying it. Yeah. I think his creative passing is fantastic. He's stable again, like Mikel likes his defenders. He's got that running power. One of the issues on the left-hand side, and again, it depends how things work, our winger is so often, because Saka can get himself out to in, Martinelli can't quite do that and he might need an overlap. And Arteta's never going to sign a flying fullback, but what he might do is sign someone who can do that, but also give you stability further back. He's got Champions League experience, he's won the league in Belgium, he's a brilliant player.
Okay, stick him up. There we have it.
A nice rogue shout to
I like
finish
the raise.
that list.
Arsenal fans, neutral fans, let us know what you think of that home now. 5 players that have targeted.
No Williams, no Gyökeres.
He did mention Isak.
We did mention
it. I thought he would verbally mention it. Let us know what you think of that home though. Enjoy